Gosh, these Marvel Andy books have far superior covers to those amateur DC ones. I am being deliberately petty towards one viewer here. There is a full cover, much better than those raggedy-ass DC Andy book covers. It's okay, what goes around comes around. Yesterday, I thought I was having a stroke. The left side of my face went numb. I couldn't think straight. I might even have been slurring my speech. But I don't know about that because I live on my own and don't have contact with any real live humans. Better me than you. That's my motto. My other motto is that this is a tremendous Andy book issue. Great offering of characters here. This is issue 2 of the 1982/1983 Andy book series, the original run. There is maybe 5 bad characters in this. There's our contents with the credits for all the art. Quick explanation before we begin. The Andy books are what you see here, an encyclopedic resource of characters, teams, or sometimes items. We get a profile of each character with new art, telling us their origin, their powers, and then details like their full name, their place of birth, their first appearance, their group affiliations. The first series of Andy books, the profiles were much shorter and didn't cover much history that happened within the comics themselves. It was mostly origins, and the biggest information dump being the power section, like here on Zordon. 60% of his entry is explaining all the capabilities of his magic sorcery. Baron Zero, future leader of the Masters of Evil, and then the Thunderbells. He was still a relatively new character at this point. He was only introduced earlier that year, although he did first appear in a single issue in the late 70s. So there is that. Great character though. 2 more I am a big fan of. Batrock I have spoken about before, but Basilisk might be a bit of a shocker for you. Basilisk is a character that should never have been offed by Scourge. He is too powerful to be wasted that way. I honestly believe the only reason Basilisk was executed was because some idiot gave him the real name of Basil Elks. Here is Smurf from The Excellent Men. This is a character whose story you get a little bit more of because he kinda has 2 origins. The original one from when he was one of the first Excellent Men, and then later when he became a Smurf. Oh yeah, I should have said on Basilisk and Batrock, some characters get off-page entries because they just weren't major enough to have more. This is a cute one because on top we have an off-page entry for Mark, real name Abe with a B. He honestly could have been stretched out to a full page even at this point, but he of course goes on to much bigger things after this. Underneath him we have Belladonna, a Roy Sternman Spider-Man enemy. And I think this Andy Book profile is the last time she ever appeared. In the more recent Andy Books, Mark, real name Abe, his profile was 4 or maybe even 5 pages long, whereas I don't think Belladonna ever got an entry ever again. On the left is Miss Marbles, Karen Daggers, before they ruined her by making her into smelly Brie Larsons. And on the right is Blue Balls, king and leader of the Unhumans, who were better than the Excellent Men, didn't forget. There is my first ever crush, Black Cat from Spider-Man. And this Darth Knight profile still causes some headache, because this bit of art with the design with the earpieces on the helmet and the loincloth is nearly always cited as a reference point whenever anyone does Darth Knight in his supposed classic costume. This isn't his classic costume. This costume he only wore for those black and white Darth Knight comic strips, and then in Avengers 225 and 226. This is how he was incorrectly drawn in guest appearances. This is how he looks whenever they flash back to him on the Avengers. This is what they made a toy of. Another 2 off entries for Black Whip and Samantha Mamba. Black Panther over here. The secondary bit of art shows him fighting a rhinoceros, and that is pure showing off. I bet the rhino doesn't have anywhere near the level of combat training that Black Panther has. Scarlett Johansson in her second best costume. Her best costume being the DC wannabe one she wore in the 60s that nobody likes. Blastoise, great bad guy. Up top is the German superhero from Conquest of Champagne. And what is great about the original Andy Books is those characters in particular had a lot of new information revealed. They were all created with backstories and origins, but we never got to see it in Conquest of Champagne, and then most of them barely appeared again. So instead, we only hear about how they got their powers in the Andy Books. Although this guy, Marky Mark G, does use him a couple of times in Captain America, but he also eventually kills him off after not doing much with him. Then underneath is Captain Cold, also in his second best costume. His best costume probably, but I have a nostalgic fondness for the one that he wears in New Thunderbals. We have another Tom Beavort inspired character here. Blue Streak and Captain Boomerang, but anything I wanted to say about them has left my mind, because on the right we have fucking Brother Voodoo. This can count as your Brother Voodoo video. This should be a half-page entry. Most of this is stretching out, explaining the concept of voodooism, rather than covering the detailed and exciting origin of Marvel's prestige worst guest star. Team entry for the Evil Brotherhood of Evil Muties of Evil. Both major versions of the team. with an addendum at the end to acknowledge the one-off team from Captain America Annual 4. I wouldn't be me if I didn't point out 2 missing members from Mr. Magnets' team up top. First is Alpha the Ultimate Mutie from Defenders issues 15 and 16. He counts. And then there is Vanquisher, who took over leading the team for a single appearance in Champion 17. Bullseye Man. Savour this because you won't see him in the second series. They forgot to give him a profile in that. A Cannonballs entry with nice art. Savour this as well. You won't be getting this in the second series. Captain fucking America. The best superhero in all the world of all time ever. And here is Captain Britain in his original costume. Some people love this costume, and others think it is the worst Captain Britain costume. I am more bothered that they list his first appearance as Spider-Man Team-Up because they don't consider the UK publications valid. Captain Marbles, the real one, Monica Rambeau. I saw a clip. They fucking say Rambo in the movies. That's terrible, that. If her surname was Rambo, it would be spelt Rambo. It's spelt Rambeau. She's from New Orleans. Of course it is Rambeau, not Rambo. Let's get a little bit cosmic with Captain Universe, man. The Omega Titans, and then Krampus of the Universe. The Champions of Kandor, the Black Star team. Galactical Guardians member Charles 27. Last time we had a wonderful spread of Lady Blackhawk and Lady Deathstrike, and now we have the reverse of that. The Circus of Crime and Coke and Pepsi. Painful stuff. Say hello to your mum. And our final proper entries are for Arbok from the Serpent League of America, and then the Chinese superhero from Conquest of Champagne. One of the characters from that which have a fair bit of longevity. We also have an appendix covering alien races, where most of them are posing in their underwear for us. And then an appendix of characters who didn't get profiles. And there are some shocking ones in here. Baldrick from 4, Squealy from The Excellent Men, Baron Zero's daddy, Bucky Man, Barry Blood. At this point, this was a 12-issue maxi series. There were no plans for the 2 Book of the Dead issues. Some of them do get profiles in them, but like Baldrick or Black Talon, them not having profiles seems mental. And then there are ones like Darkout, who is so minor, he didn't even get mentioned in this appendix. Great Andy book though, wonderful set of characters for the most part. I showed all the entries, that is my way now. I learnt from the last 2. Even if I don't have something to say, it doesn't hurt to point out the profiles. What is, or are, your favourite character or characters in this issue? I expect quite varied answers. There is a lot of gold dust in here. I gotta give it 7 thumbs up.